Good evening, everybody. We will start the legislative meeting. Ms. Mulhern will present the Pledge of Allegiance. We could all stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ms. Mulhern. Roll call, Ms. Harding.
Present. 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 Present.
Present. Present. Here. Present.
Present.
Thank you, Ms. Harding. Next, we have recognitions by the Wyncote Elementary School Principal, Mr. Taylor.
President Henry, members of the board, Dr. Scriven, members of the cabinet. Thank you for inviting me to speak briefly about the many ways that Wyncote roars with pride this evening. It truly is the highlight of my professional career to speak to you as the principal of this amazing school, where we strive every day to roar with kindness and positive behavior and infuse all that we do with the Wyncote way. Next slide. So let's learn about our lines. I want to begin by acknowledging the art that is on display in the auditorium this evening and around the administration building. While we recognize and honor that Black history is part of our year-long curriculum at Wyncote, our teachers and students take extra time during the month of February for deeper explorations of historical figures and events. We strive to implement culturally responsive pedagogy into our curriculum, and this is evident in our artwork. This art show is inspired by contemporary artists and cultures that represent our community. You will see the panels are separated in themes such as Black History Month, through the seasons, the contemporary corner, and celebrating culture. The Black History Month panel, right here to my right, showcases student artwork inspired by prominent Black artists, such as Faith Ringgold, Reggie Laurent, Kimmy Cantrell, Romar Bearden, Kendi Wiley, and the G's Ben Quilters of Alabama. Students worked independently and collaboratively on projects on these panels in order to develop a strong artistic community of learners. The Through the Seasons panel celebrates the beauty of the seasons and shows artwork that explores a variety of artistic processes, such as drawing with glue, a favorite of kindergartners, shading with oil pastels, observational drawing, printmaking, and more. On the Celebrating Culture panel, you'll find artwork that honors Hispanic and Indigenous heritage. Carreta wheels from Costa Rica and amate bark paintings of Mexico highlight the bright colors of the culture. Recycled paper plates make up the sculptural dream catchers by our kindergarten artists. Finally, the Contemporary Corner panel showcases artwork inspired by contemporary artists like James Rizzi, Kadinsky, and Eloise Renouf. Students also created abstract paintings and paper weaving to create these unique works of art. One of the things that I am particularly proud of is the way that these young artists have used written reflection, poetry, and written observations to further enrich their experience. Congratulations to our art teacher, Ms. Splyler, for an exceptional art show. One of the many skills we're focusing on at Wyncote is incorporating student voice into our daily experience. And tonight, while I could go on and on for hours about all the good things at Wyncote, I know you're happy I'm not doing all the talking. The truth and power comes from our student voices. So tonight, we have two experts who have been with us since kindergarten, who will briefly share their reflections on Wyncote with you. First, we welcome Njoya Essoka. Come on, buddy. So why don't you stand here?
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me to speak. My name is Njoya Essoka. I'm a fourth grader at Wyncote Elementary. My current teacher is Mrs. Stock. However, Principal Taylor was my kindergarten teacher and helped lay my Wyncote foundation. I like a lot about Wyncote. We have a nice new school that offers lots of activities. But what I like most about Wyncote are the teachers because of their interactive and thoughtful instruction. For example, in kindergarten, I incubated eggs to learn about the life cycle of a chicken. Seeing chicks hatch helped us better understand how chicks come to be. Mrs. Ryan, my first grade teacher, taught me about mindfulness. We practiced yoga and she would ring a bell. These activities were relaxing. Each of my teachers made valuable contributions to my education, especially Mrs. Ward, who mastered virtual instruction and was committed to her second grade students continuing to learn during the COVID-19 pandemic. Her determination and my hard work helped me stay on track. In third grade, Mr. Ferris was stern and encouraged me to be more outspoken and curious about the world around me. He made me stretch. Currently, I'm learning how to become a better writer in Mrs. Stock's class. She has students do jottings after they read, and it has helped me analyze, not just summarize readings. I am developing sharp critical thinking skills. I believe that I haven't just been taught by good teachers, I've been taught by good people. Kindness is a core value at Wyncote. However, I initially learned about its importance at home, and it has been reinforced at school. It was a major part of my kindergarten experience with Mr. Taylor. Kindness is an important concept because it influences people's behavior and helps people think about their actions. These are just a few of the things that I like about Wyncote. I am happy to answer any questions you have about my experience. Again, thank you for the opportunity to share my story.
Right. Should we ask the questions?
Any questions from the board?
Great job.
Any comments before he sits down?
Go, David.
I just want to thank you for your poise and for sharing your experiences at Wyncote. It was very valuable and very admirable. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. That was very, very just enlightening. And I'm looking at you thinking, if this is what we have in Wyncote, we have a really bright future. Thank you.
Mr. Teller, before we call our next presenter, can you come back up to the podium, please?
Enjoy.
I just want to take the opportunity to acknowledge parents, guardians, or loved ones that are in the audience. I want to do it one at a time because I think that's important. Are the parents or guardians here? Please stand, please stand. So I just want to salute you. And I want to use both of you, and we have one on deck, just as an example of what partnership really means. We've not met, but just through your son, I know it's not just Wyncote, it's also what's happening in the home. And this is what I really want to cultivate as we continue to move forward. So I know you probably won't be here by the time the board meeting is over, which is understandable. So I wanted to acknowledge you up front. So thank you so much for your work and what you've done with your son. And you're outstanding. I'm gonna be following up with you. Just know that, okay? All right. Mr. Taylor, I know we have one on deck.
No.
Great job. And for a slightly different perspective, we have Ella Pancoast.
On the first day of school, when I looked at the building and smiled, it smiled back. I could see right through a Wyncote and into the classrooms and could tell I would learn many things throughout the years. And I was right. When I was waiting to meet my first ever teacher that would expand my perspective of kindness by showing me that our school is one big kindness circle, I tried to think of what we might do in our first year of Wyncote. But this isn't about me and my year's Wyncote. This is how I think Wyncote is a kind place for all. First off, the teachers. Every day when I get out of the car, my mom says as I'm getting out, don't forget to spread your sparkle. That is exactly what my teachers do every day. The first teacher I ever had, Mr. Taylor, now a proud principal, taught me how to share a few drops of kindness every day. He's our mini Mr. Rogers, except not so mini. He sees the good in all kids with no judgment and encourages them to bring out the good in the classroom. Miss Ryan, our wonderful first grade teacher, meditation coach, and yoga instructor, has taught me how to breathe in the good and breathe out the bad. How? Faith, trust, and meditation dust. This awesome teacher led me through an amazing second year that I will never forget. My second grade teacher taught me how to be a Zoom typhoon, to get through all of the technical difficulty and pass the time by reading Poppy, the book she still reads today. Even in COVID times, she reminded me that a light could still shine bright in the lonely, scary dark of a pandemic. I used to be scared of taking virtual tests and needed Mom by my side, but Miss Ward pushed me little by little until the end of the year. I'd finally learned how to take tests without an adult right by my side. My third grade teacher, Miss D, was the most unique and creative teacher I've ever had. It was her first time teaching third grade and my first time being in third grade. She was as understanding as can be. She even taught me how to be kind to animals. I had this club called the Kindness Crew that Miss D inspired. We made kindness messages at free time and helped her hang stuff. On Fridays, Miss D led a campfire. We gave out acknowledgments to people who we thought were modeling the Wyncote way. We also brought cards to the residents at Wyncote Place. And lastly, my owl-loving teacher, Mrs. Neal. She helped me persevere through hard math problems. She also guided me through challenging areas that I couldn't figure out. When I made mistakes on tests, Miss Neal gives me a chance to fix it. She always said how she enjoys coming to work every day, and I think that is amazing coming out of a teacher's mouth. After all, they have it hard coming in early to prepare every lesson each day. And students don't just watch as teachers spread kindness, they spread kindness too. Students are kind by complimenting grown-ups, being someone's buddy when they're sitting on the buddy bench, and lastly, students ask how their teachers' days are. There are millions of acts of kindness every day. If I were to fill up a bucket with all of Wyncote's kindness acts, it would overflow and cover our city and all of our kindness. Our school is one kind place, and I encourage the students and teachers at Wyncote to keep being kind and spreading their sparkle. And soon, when I fill a bucket again, the kindness will cover our planet. Wyncote Elementary School is our model of how to make the world a kinder place.
Ella, thank you for spreading your sparkle tonight. And Mom, that will be on my email signature in the morning. With quotes that says, Ella, spread your sparkle, Ella. I will definitely give you acknowledgement for that.
So are the guardians here? Parents, please stand so we can acknowledge. And siblings, if there's. So once again, I see we have some in the pipeline. And that always makes me smile. I just wanted to also commend you as a family. We really appreciate the partnership. Just thank you for how you're pouring into your children. It's truly being manifested to be fourth graders, both of them, and be able to articulate in the way that they did and just their composure. We have a bright future, and this is really what our district represents. We just want that to be a reflection at every level, right? And that's what we're striving towards. Principal Taylor, I'm glad you held back those tears, sir. Appreciate it. And Mrs. Haywood?
Just want to say thank you to both of you. This was awesome. I mean, coming here today and sitting in the seat and hearing from both of you, I'm getting ready to tear up myself. My children both, all three of them actually went to Wyncote, so it's near and dear to my heart. And it's great to see that that level of kindness and love still permeates that building. Mr. Taylor, thank you for allowing the students to speak tonight. And thank you for always sharing your kindness with both your students, the staff, and the community. Appreciate it. Awesome, you guys are awesome.
So really, there's nothing left to say. But let's quickly look at a couple of slides. Thank you to Mrs. Flynn, our library media specialist, for putting this together for us tonight. So we do focus in our classroom on things beyond kindness, but keeping with the alliteration of the 21st century critical thinking skills, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and a strong emphasis on creativity. Next slide, please. One of the pushes that I'm trying to make this year at Wyncote is to really focus on data-driven small group instruction. So we're coming along. It's a work in progress. We see a lot of whole class, whole group lessons, some individual practice, but I truly believe that the work happens in small groups and where teachers really know what they're doing. We're striving very hard, next slide please, to work on our culture in our building. We have, next slide please, kindness ambassadors. We are a PBIS school. We have met our tier 1 fidelity and have been recognized by the state. We have regular town hall meetings to encourage school spirit. We use our PBIS data to inform our practices around behavior and culture and climate. Our students at this point in the year have already earned over 100,000 positive behavior points, which is amazing. We just had our big school-wide Eagles pep rally. They even got me to wear a swoop head and not a suit that day. So they really are getting somewhere. We have some extracurricular activities. On the left is our first ever Lego robotics group that participated in the countywide tournament. We had our spelling bee, script spelling bee in the middle. And we celebrate success at every turn. That was our Monster Mash, I believe, in October, celebrating our PBIS points. One of the things we're trying to do is connect very intentionally with the larger community. We are using this year to develop a project that's very much based on design thinking and problem-based learning in connection with Philadelphia Zoo. So our fourth graders are choosing an area of focus related to climate change and its impact on many animals and the habitats across the globe and the impact of climate, global warming. We're also connecting with the CHS Sustainability Committee and having regular conversation with Philadelphia zookeepers. We have a very strong sense of community at Wyncote. Our families are tremendously involved in all that we do at Wyncote, as you can see by our 2 student speakers tonight. Last week, we had our PBIS Family Night, which was a great event. We had the Glenside Fire Department come for our Fire Prevention Week. And in the fall or late summer, we have grade level play dates, particularly important for our kindergarten families, where they can begin to meet and make those strong connections. We gather as a school community. We have 2 teachers that recently presented in Harrisburg at Hershey at the PBIS State Conference, talking about the Wyncote Way and our Roar store. And we demonstrate in October, every October, the power of a united community, where the faculty dresses up as a common theme for our storybook parade. This year they were crayons from the story The Day the Crayons Quit. Thankfully they didn't quit. And I was the box in the center. We do have a strong emphasis on community service and develop partnerships. We are now in the process of collecting change to make a change for relief efforts for victims of the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. We are intentionally building a relationship with our neighbors at the Wyncote Place next door, a residential facility for folks with memory issues. We just delivered last week, our kindness ambassadors went over and delivered friendship cards and stuffed animals that they'd written notes, and we collected over the MLK Day of Service. And we are, next slide please, at Wyncote, we are now over 100 days, kinder and smarter. So these are many of our kindergarten students who dressed up for the 100th day of school, what they look like when they were 100 years. Would that we all look that good at 100 years. Finally, I just want to take one point of personal privilege. As the late American poet Mary Oliver says, what can I say that I haven't said before? So I'll say it again. Thank you. Thank you for the trust and confidence you have placed in me as the principal at Wyncote Elementary School. I'm not going to do it. Thank you to Dr. Scriven, to Dr. Smith for their mentorship, to every person sitting at that table and at the cabinet table. In my nearly 2 decades of work here in Cheltenham, I have never felt as supported in my work as I have this past year. And so that's a tribute to the climate and culture that Dr. Scriven is trying to build with his leadership team. It's recognized and much appreciated. So I've said it before, I'll say it again and again and again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor, and thank you to your 2 wonderful students again. Go ahead.
Let me just say that families, this is the opportunity
The exit.
to slide out. Thank you for taking time this evening. We really appreciate it.
Mr. Kaufman, can you unmute Miss Dylan Nelson so she has the student council representative's report? They are not on. Okay, I don't have a message from her. Okay, we'll move on to the superintendent's report given by Dr. Scriven.
So good evening to the board, and this is an opportunity for me to go over the superintendent goals for this 2022-2023 school year. These are the goals that are being presented to our board of directors for their consideration for approval. So as you're aware, we've, as a team and this cabinet, Dr. Smith, and all that are gathered, multiple stakeholders as well, have been working diligently along with our board with establishing a 3-year strategic plan. It's not just about establishing the strategic plan, but it's how we message it and also how we implement it. So I will be responsible for facilitating that process. And I'm excited because now as a district, by the time we close this evening, we will have a district focus, a district plan that will serve as our beacon for how we move forward. That plan will be transferred to each individual school by way of their school improvement plans, which will simply go deeper than what we have acknowledged and identified as targeted goals at the district level. You can go to a couple slides afterwards just to highlight some of the things. I'm very clear coming in some of the issues and concerns around facilities. Right now, part of our charge, and I do want to give some kudos to Mrs. Swigert, who's at the table, who is our new business manager, to Mr. Holman that's on the side, and to individuals at this table who work on the facilities and finance team. We're really identifying and coming up with a strategic capital improvement plan. We're at the point right now where we're identifying vendors to do a feasibility study. I'm very transparent with the fact that we have to do something to address Elkins Park. We have to do something to address the high school. And when I say the high school, it's not just the interior, it's also the facilities. Part of that is captured in the strategic plan. And we will constantly be reporting out to the board as we're going through the implementation phase of the plan. We're adapting or adopting a strategic plan, but that work has already started. And you will see that as we go through the process. You can skip where it says transition. He's no longer new as our director of business management. How many months has it been now, sir? Yeah, the fact that he can't remember lets you know that he's deep in the work right now. So when we move on to goal number 2, it's the budget process. So I can't identify facilities and what we need to do through capital improvement without also touching upon the budget. This is Mrs. Swigert's first year working with the team in entirety with really developing a budget which is going to be aligned to the targeted goals which are reflected in the strategic plan. One thing that I'm going to actually do once the strategic plan has been adopted by the board is align my goals to those specific goals in the strategic plan and the sub-objectives so that we can see a fluid crosswalk and how they are interconnected. So I'm excited about having that opportunity. I'm gonna take it 1 year at a time. I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. But with the Act 1 index, so this will be the second year that we will be under the Act 1 index. That is always a goal and something that we aspire to. I'm not a fortune teller, so I can't predict what's going to happen in the future, but we've been very conscientious about that as we've addressed our budget over the last couple of years. And you've already heard me speak to the importance of the alignment between where our money is going from a budgetary standpoint as it relates to curricular resources and materials to benefit our students in the district. And also our adults, to be quite honest with you, from a professional development standpoint. This year, we only have one contract that we need to negotiate, and that's BEC. My first year, it was CEA. We will be working collaboratively with the team here who is selected to be a part of that process, and just really looking forward to continuing to have a more collaborative experience in terms of that culture and climate that Mr. Taylor alluded to as it relates to our BEC negotiating bargaining unit. Next is the big one, and again, sometimes I'm a little too transparent, but this goal I struggled in last year, and I've been very honest with coming in November with the onboarding process. I really do not feel as if I had the opportunity to truly address academic growth and achievement. We have really amped up our emphasis in that area already this year. We are laser focused on truly making data a part of our daily process, with making sure that we are looking at student data and really trying to identify what adjustments we need to make with respect to best practices. Dr. Smith and her team are diligently working on upgrading our curriculum. This is something that when they first came into the district, we did not even have across the board. And we're well on our way to having a large chunk of that being addressed by the time we start the next school year. And I'm excited about that, because that curriculum will serve as our blueprint for how we're going to move the district forward as a whole. Also captured, you'll see other multiple data points. I'm really excited with one part of our strategic plan is when we talk about a portrait of a graduate. But a portrait of a graduate is not just what we want a graduate to look like when they exit Cheltenham school system. It's really a K through 12 continuum of what we want our students to look like as they are matriculating from grade to grade. What are the multiple measures that we're going to be identifying? And not just from an academic standpoint, we are really looking at the whole child. As we know, the social emotional component is huge. And as we go through, you will see, Ms. Deb, you could probably go ahead through the goal 3. Some of the specifics that are being highlighted, we're just making sure that there's an alignment, making sure that PLCs are fluid. And when we talk about PLCs, we're not just talking about professional learning communities with teachers from the academic standpoint. We are looking at really strengthening our MTSS approach as well, because we know that there's an overrepresentation of our students in the special ed. And if we are coming up with strong interventions and supports with the respect of MTSS, we're drilling down and meeting student needs, we feel that we can really address that overrepresentation that we've seen traditionally as we look at the trend data. That involves professional learning communities as well, with multiple stakeholders within the schoolhouses coming together, looking at student data, identifying root causes, and addressing additional supports and interventions which are needed. Collaboration for me is critical. And I really feel that as we incrementally move this district forward, it's everyone operating as a unit and trying to break down some of the silos, unfortunately, that have been established. There is exceptional work, as you saw just today in the presentation with Wyncote, which is happening. How do we leverage that across all schools? And I'll just use elementary as a level. So as we're seeing great things happening at the elementary level, how are we making sure that we're taking those best practices and using them at other schools that may not be as strong in certain areas? I'm really excited, and an example is on March 8th, we'll be having a meeting with all of our individuals that are part of our project-based learning. Something that is going to be high on my radar is, what does project-based learning look like K through 12? When we think about future ready standards, it's really a new way. We're there. We're deep in the 21st century But when we look programmatically, do we see the alignment in our programs that represent us preparing our students for what the future truly looks like? Part of that is going to happen in project-based learning and how we're currently addressing it. It's a strong focus on STEM when you think about future-ready standards. Do we see that reflected in our curriculum as we look K through 12, or not just curriculum, programmatically in terms of what we're doing within our schoolhouses? So these are the types of endeavors that we're going to be embarking on. And you think about climate and culture, so often you think about having safe and orderly environments that are conducive for learning. But for me, it's so much more than that. It's just not about safe and orderly environments. It's about the mindset. I try to model that in terms of always being even keel, in terms of my temperament and my disposition. Always knowing that I'm not on an island by myself and reaching out to others to come along and do the work. That's simply what I want to see in this district as a whole, where we are an extended family. Like I said, with those parents that just left, I clearly recognize that we are a small part, but they have ownership as well. And I want to engage our parents in terms of being active participants in that learning process. You know, one of these goals in here speaks to parents having an awareness of what internal and external resources are available. Well, we need to do a better job as a district with empowering our parents to know what our pathways look like, what resources are available within the respective schoolhouses, but what are also the external resources that they may need in any areas that they may be struggling with their students. So my goal as we move forward is to really lay a blueprint out of success for our families and for our faculty and staff. Once you have a plan, it's just a matter of working that plan and doing that with fidelity. So this is high level. I'm sorry, 16, 17 slides. I'm not going to read slide by slide, but I've really captured the essence of what we're doing. And we have a committed team, and I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge them in the work. I understand that even though I know where I want us to go, me going there alone is not going to accomplish what we need for the district. So I'm trying to be very strategic and very intentional about making sure that the whole has a level of understanding of the direction that we're moving. I think that will clearly be articulated through this strategic plan. And then it's a matter of us really working the plan again, starting with our principals in each schoolhouse, to our instructional leadership team, to our teachers. And the ultimate goal is for that knowledge to be transferred to our students. So this is what you as a board, I know you've already reviewed the plan. I wanted the opportunity for a community to hear directly from me or have an archive that they can go back to understand the direction that we are attempting to move as a district. And Madam Chair, that brings closure to my report.
Thank you, Dr. Scriven. Just have one comment. Setting goals is an intentional process. The board believed that it was important to allow the strategic planning process to occur and then link and align Dr. Scriven's goals to those measurable outcomes. That's why we are approving goals tonight. As Dr. Scriven said, this work has already begun, some of it included in the school improvement plans. And as you heard tonight from the two Wyncote students, Njoya and Ella, learning and growth is happening in our district. The degree of achievement in each of these areas requires a commitment, not only from everyone in the room, but everyone in the school buildings in Cheltenham Elementary, as well as parents, guardians, family members, community members. And this board is committed to that work. So I just wanted to make that acknowledgement tonight. Next, we have Ms. Gallagher for the solicitor's report.
Good evening. There are no Sunshine Act announcements for this evening as the board has not met in executive session since the last legislative board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gallagher. Next, we have public comments on agenda items only. If you are in the community watching via Zoom or on television, cable, or in the audience. If you're in the audience, you're welcome to approach the podium, state your name and where you reside in the district. If you are watching us online or on cable, you can send an email to csdboardmeetingcomments@cheltenham.org. If you're in the Zoom room, you can raise your hand and you will be unmuted. Again, state your name and where you reside in the district. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Welcome. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Gerville Brown, Falcon Sport. I guess you guys are gonna get used to seeing me basically. Because I'm here to, I have a student or a son currently in Cheltenham High School. But I have to start that. I have two sons who went to Wyncote. And you guys have got a good, record of producing very, good students and kids. Thank you for that. Now that my son is in high school, one of the issues that the superintendent actually addressed it in his plan, which is I'm focused on you improving the schools. EP or Cheltenham High School. Not just Cheltenham High School because my son is there, but like I said, EP and Cheltenham High School. And so it's good to hear that, you guys are focused on that. And in regards to a school board, I see you guys as an elephant. Why? Because you have the strength and ability to get things done. Me, I'm going to be the tick. And, like I said, if you ever see an elephant run fast, sometimes it's a small tick on him that's either annoying them or doing things to prod them. So I'm satisfied in being that role because I believe in not just improving things for my kids, which are passing through, but any future kids. And like I said, the superintendent, I know you address some of your plans, which I'm looking forward to, hearing more about that personally. And I thank you guys for your effort.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we do not see you as a tick, but as a partner. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I apologize to the board. Point of order, I'm out of order. There is one slide that I neglected to share. Is it okay if I just
Yes,
share
it
the
is.
slides? Thank you, ma'am. So as you're aware, there was an event at the high school last Thursday, which was in recognition of our African-American or Black History Month. And it's just high level, but all the schools participated. And, it's about our students. It's not about us as an adult. And I just wanted to show, it's only a minute, but just a very brief video, which kind of embodies or captures what occurred last Thursday. So you had spoken word, poetry, dance, song, the band. And, you know, for me, it's the faces, right? I just look at the faces. And even though my children are grown now, I look at all of our children as if they were my own, right? And that's us. That's our district. And there's so much potential and opportunity. So just wanted to not miss that opportunity to just share all of our schools coming together as one in celebration. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Scriven. Can I have a motion to approve the January 10th meeting minutes?
Move to approve. Should we hear it?
Second, Jennifer Lemon.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. The motion carries. We will start our committee reports with Mr. Schultz providing a financial affairs report.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. Finance Committee met on the evening of February 7th after the Facilities Committee meeting, which ended at roughly 7:40. Following roll call and approval of the January committee meeting minutes, the committee was presented with an overview of the current balance sheet and statement of changes in fund balance, which continue to fall at expected levels for this time of year. The next agenda item was a presentation of the 2023-2024 preliminary budget, that is next year's potential budget. The preliminary budget is a very early stage budget and is actually being presented this evening on the legislative agenda under the informational items. And just to clarify, because we passed a resolution committing to not raise above Act 1 index, we do not need to pass this budget, but rather simply present, or we don't vote on the preliminary budget, we just present the preliminary budget. The budget as presented incorporates its very early draft, so it incorporates no increases to state or local tax revenues, and it's really focused on what are the projected expense increases. And that includes, therefore, a budget shortfall of roughly $2.6 million, which would reflect a 2.75% tax increase if we were to keep those expenses at that level and only raise revenues through local taxes. And once again, I want to reiterate, it's possible expenses could go down or up, and it's also possible that revenues could be raised in other ways beyond just property taxes. This represents a starting point for the budget discussions, and the budget will be refined over the coming months before being finalized and voted on in May or June. The next agenda item that the committee discussed was the district's capital planning process. We recently released a request for proposals for architects and planners to assist the district in developing a 20-year capital plan. This plan would help codify direction and vision for the district's investment in facilities, including some of our more aging facilities, as Dr. Scriven alluded to earlier this evening. After that, the committee was given an update on the Church Road expansion project as it affects Wyncote Elementary. And for those unfamiliar, that is an intersection between Church Road and Rice's Mill Road. Thank you. I knew I could rely on someone. And it's being performed by PennDOT, which is the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. And we're working with them to help try to control and influence potential impacts on the Wyncote Elementary property footprint. That project, for what it's worth, though, would increase the width of the roads, making it a little bit safer, have a turning lane, and also provide sidewalks where there are not sidewalks. The final agenda item was an update on two items for board approval tonight. The first is approval of the MCIU budget, and the second is the approval of a contract with professional appraisers in relation to reverse tax appeals. It's a little bit wonky, but essentially it helps inform our district of any usually business properties or other properties where the value of the property may be lower than it ought to be, given what's going on the property. The next Finance Committee meeting will be held on the evening of March 7th, following the Facilities Committee meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Before we move on to the next committee meeting, Dylan Nelson is in the Zoom room and ready to provide her presentation. Any objections to allow? Okay, fine. Yes, Mr. Kaufman, you can unmute her.
Hello. I'm Dylan Nelson. I'm the student council representative for this evening. So usually I come to these meetings with like an agenda provided by the student council. However, we are experiencing some difficulties this evening and I do not have a agenda ready. However, I do want to quickly report on the town hall the student council is planning for sometime later in March, supposedly. We're still working on it. Tomorrow, February 22nd, we're planning to meet with Dr. Scriven and Miss Deandra, and we're gonna settle on a date for this town hall, get any other preparations ready, make sure the Google form gets out to anyone who wants to participate, and make sure that the town hall is strictly like community based and make sure it's like, we get everyone who in the Cheltenham community who wants to get involved, get involved. We planned for a town hall, as we discussed in the February 9th meeting, to be like around 5. And we are aware that the cultural club in Cheltenham High School is planning a town hall of their own. Tomorrow, we're gonna meet with them again and see if we can combine our town halls, because there seems to be a bit of confusion between what they have planned and what we have planned. So that's what we're gonna discuss tomorrow, and we're gonna just make some final second to last preparation, some just kind of start to finalize what we're planning for the town hall. So as of right now, that's all I have to report. But if I get an agenda later on this evening, then I'll report on that as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Next, we will have an Educational Affairs Committee report from Ms. Mulhern.
Yes, thank you. The Educational Affairs Committee met on January 17th at 7 p.m. Following roll call and the approval of the December minutes, 2 topics were presented. The presentations and video recording are available on the website. There was a lot discussed, lots of numbers and charts to help flesh it out. So please do visit that if you'd like more information. First, Ms. Jessica Keene, the Director of Student Services, presented an annual update on social emotional supports, health and wellness in the district. Some of the highlights included a partnership that we began last year with the Black Doctors Consortium, which helps provide access to physicals and more to our students. We continue to expand our social emotional curriculum and resources with programs like Second Step and Too Good for Drugs. 3 mentor groups currently meet through the Office of Student Services, Make the Distinction, Girls Achieve Program, and Baseline Hoops. This does not mean that other mentor programs do not exist in individual buildings. Ms. Keene reviewed the social, emotional, and mental health supports and counseling services by grade span or building, including the number of mental health and wellness counselors. Students referred to various supports and counselors, including our own staff and contracted services. Our district social workers coordinated with the Glenside Rotary Club to provide Thanksgiving baskets to 75 families. They worked with the Rotary Club, Calvary Presbyterian Church, and Knesset Israel Synagogue to provide holiday gifts to 68 families. And they have also provided refugee support to 35 new students. So lots of wonderful things happening. Thank you to Ms. Keene and her team for all of the work that they are doing for our students. The second part of the meeting was a presentation with district consultant Carmina Taylor and CHS senior Mia Cruz. For me anyway, it was the first time a student presented at a committee meeting, and that in and of itself was just amazing and enlightening. Not that we do not enjoy hearing from our administrators on a regular basis, but it was just great to have her in the room with us. They shared an update on Cheltenham's Cultural Proficiency and Equity Student Ambassadors Program. Cheltenham was one of the first districts in the county to be part of this program run by Ms. Taylor. The number of students and districts participating has about doubled since it began in 2019. The goal is to inspire students to embrace the spirit of advocacy through cultural proficiency and social justice work. Our CHS cultural ambassadors have been able to facilitate town halls with school board directors, town halls with students and teachers, as well as implement presentations about high school AP and honors programs to 8th grade students. That's just a few of the things they've done. They also meet with students at other high schools throughout the county to learn from each other and work together. Our district students also participated in all of our students, or most of our students, participate in a psychological sense of school membership belonging survey, and the ambassadors our students were able to be a part of the team that analyzed this data and to figure out how to use it to inform the town halls and other improvements that they would like to see. Those ambassadors also attended the UPenn Belonging Community Partner Meeting where this was discussed, and if I remember correctly, they were the only students to present themselves and impressed everyone with their knowledge and intimate knowledge of the data and what to do with the data. So very proud of them. Ms. Taylor and Ms. Cruz look forward to continuing growing this work within the district. And as I said, we were most impressed with Ms. Cruz and the work that she's done as a leader within her high school community. And we look forward to future updates. The next Ed Affairs meeting is actually tomorrow night, Wednesday, February 22nd at 7 p.m., both in person and via Zoom. And as always, all are welcome. The topic is an update on the autistic support and classrooms that were brought in-house at the start of this school year. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Moham. Mr. Burdell Williams will provide the Eastern Center for Arts and Technology report.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. I'll be reporting on 2 months worth of Eastern Center for Arts and Technology JLC meetings. I'll do my best to keep it brief as I promised the board prior to tonight's meeting. The January Eastern Center for Arts and Technology JLC meeting was held on Wednesday, January 8th, 2023, and the February meeting was held on Wednesday, February 11th, 2023. Both meetings were held via Zoom. There were no topics discussed that required board approval, but I do have a few key topics that I want to share with the board and the community. First, always leading with our students of the month, Cody Kroll and Abington Senior was recognized in January for his outstanding work in the automotive technology program. And Luis Ramos McMahon was acknowledged for his work in the welding technology program as the February 2023 Student of the Month. Second, I do want to take the opportunity to highlight 2 Cheltenham High School students who are currently featured in Eastern's Black History Month Spotlight on their website. One student spotlight features Nalissa Bryan, an Eastern Culinary Arts student and Cheltenham High School junior. You may have seen a post on our Cheltenham social media reflecting this. Just a few things to share. Nalissa believes in diversity and inclusion. She is proud to be a Black woman and also part of the LGBTQ community. She hopes to become a statewide Skills USA officer because she would like all groups to be seen and heard in and outside of school. She is playing the part of Paulette in the upcoming play Legally Blonde at CHS. And after graduation from Eastern and Cheltenham High, Nalissa plans to attend Johnson & Wales University for Culinary Arts and pursue her master's in culinary science. Also featured was Maya Whitted, a cosmetology student and Cheltenham High School senior, a Skills USA District Cosmetology Competition medalist. Maya says that her passion for the cosmetology field is something that runs in her family and something she knew would be a part of her future from a young age. Her grandmother was a cosmetologist and model, Her grandfather was a barber, and her great aunt was a cosmetologist. After graduation, Maya will be attending Delaware State University for business. She plans to work in the cosmetology field while in college and has decided to study business so that she can someday run her own salon. Congratulations to our Cheltenham students for their highlights in Eastern's Black History Month Spotlight. Moving on, the January meeting highlights included a presentation of the Eastern Strategic Plan for the Joint Operating Committee's final approval. Eastern Strategic Plan was posted on the website for public comment on January 9th before being presented to the Joint Operating Committee for final approval at the February meeting. The updated plan proposes a mission statement change. The change is to the mission of Eastern is to equip all students with the dynamic skills, knowledge, and mindsets to exceed in their career pathway. The themes of the strategic plan center around three key points: climate and culture, educational programming, and student achievement. Under Facilities and Financial Affairs in January, the JOC approved 2 new contracts with NRG Curtailment Solutions Incorporated. These contracts allow Eastern to save money by reducing energy during periods of large energy consumption. The JOC also approved an agreement with Direct Energy to fix the price of Eastern's electrical consumption and help manage costs. Moving on to our February highlights. See, that was a lot faster than you thought it would be. February highlights included the approval of both the 2023 through 2029 strategic plan, so about 5 years of Eastern strategic plan, and the 2023 to 2026 comprehensive plan, pending some minor revisions due to changes in guidelines. A short discussion regarding public comments and the changes in guidelines was held during the agenda session, again, reflecting on the information received during the public comment period that started on January 9th. And a link to the strategic plan and stakeholder comment form can be found on Eastern's website in the February board brief and minutes today. Also in February, under Facilities and Financial Affairs, Eastern acknowledged the adoption of Eastern's budget by all of our sending districts, including Cheltenham, and authorized Eastern to submit it to the Pennsylvania Department of Education. As a reminder, the career and technical education school system budgets are on a different cycle than our school districts. So you'll hear information about preliminary budgets and our budget cycle at our February and our upcoming Finance Committee meetings here in Cheltenham. However, again, that reflects a different cycle than that of our career and technical education facilities. The JOC also adopted the 2021-2022 financial audit report with 2 minor observations. Again, that information is available on Eastern's website for public review as well. A full brief that covers all of the fine details of all JOC meetings can be found on Eastern's website at eastech.org. The next meeting of the Eastern Center for Arts and Technology Joint Operating Committee will be held in person on Wednesday, March 8th at 8 p.m. at Eastern's facility on Turwood Road in Upper Moreland. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell-Williams. Well done. Next, we have the MCIU report by Ms. Loman.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The Montgomery County Intermediate Unit met on Wednesday, January 25th, 2023 at 6:45 p.m. in person at the MCIU's main office in Norristown and also over Zoom. The meeting started with a MCIU program highlight. Shane Lentz, who's the Office of Technology Services Director, presented an overview of the many services offered by that office to school districts in the county and some of the current projects that Office of Technology Services is working on. In particular, just wanted to highlight he stressed that the IU can offer to its school districts kind of audits, if you will, and whether or not the district's technology security services are up to par. So there's more, I can provide more details if anybody's interested in that, but he had a lot to say about what the IU could offer its sending districts in terms of technology support that I was completely unaware of. So there's a lot going on there. The next part of the meeting was Dr. Regina Speaker, the IU's executive director, made a very exciting announcement that the MCIU was recently awarded a 4-year Project Aware grant, which stands for Advancing Wellness and Resiliency in Education, from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The MCIU and its partners will receive $7.2 million over the next 4 years as recipients of this grant. The MCIU has partnered with the Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit, the Luzerne Intermediate Unit, and CHOP. The project funded by the grant has 3 parts. The first part involves the creation of a free universal mental health screening tool for students in grades K through 12, which would of course require parental consent to participate. But Dr. Speaker was very excited about being able to engage in this project, which is something that lots of people have been trying to do for a long time. And so I'm very excited to finally have the funding to make that happen. The second part of the project is suicide prevention training and the establishment of resiliency clubs for students in grades K through 12. And the third part was development of an online system to expand mental health referral pathways. And someone from the MCIU talked about this basically to say that it's just got to be simpler. If someone needs a referral to a partial hospitalization program, a day treatment program, a counselor, it has to be more than sort of who, calling up and saying, well, who do you know who might have something? It's got to be an online way of securing this information. And that's something that CHOP has been working on, but is going to be working on together now with these various IUs to make that happen. So that's the third part of that grant. The Project Aware is a nationwide grant program created to develop a sustainable infrastructure for school-based mental health programs and services. And the MCIU was just one of a handful of organizations that received that grant throughout the country. So it's very, very exciting. The board actually then approved the year 1 project budget for Project Aware through December 30th, 2023. So more to come on that. Very, very exciting news about what's going to be happening there. The MCIU board that approved the renewals of employment agreements with Jack Hurd, who's the IU's Director of Human Resources, and Sandy Edling, who some of us know, who's the IU's Chief Financial Officer and Director of Business Services, effective July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2027, so 4 years. The board then approved the 2023-2024 district membership services budget, which we're going to be voting on Cheltenham's piece of tonight, and also the Office of Facilities and Operations budget. A little bit more about the membership services budget. It actually comprises 3 separate membership services that the IU provides. And the 3 service areas are partial functions of these 3 offices. It's the Office of Community and Government Relations, which we participate in their monthly meetings, Office of Organizational and Professional Learning, which runs among the many things that it does, the superintendent's councils, the principal's councils for the IU, and also things that we all hold near and dear to our hearts, like reading Olympics and things like that. So, and then the Office of Technology Services, which I definitely think we need to tap into, especially since we're paying some money for them. So those are the 3 things that the service areas that the membership services budget comprises. The total of the 2023-2024 membership services fee is $1,561,980. That represents a 3% increase to the contributions of 2 offices. The CSD board will be asked to vote on Cheltenham's share of that budget later this meeting. Our portion will be $55,583, which is an increase of a little over 5% over this current school year, for which we paid $43,400. And the increase is purely spread out based on the state funding formula. And the rest of the meeting, we approved several other, the board approved several other programmatic budgets. The board also received a human resources update from Mr. Hurd. The IU actually hired over 150 new employees in 2022 and continues hiring at a pace along those lines. They hired 30 new employees in December and January. They are continuing to have struggles hiring and keeping paraprofessionals and transportation people in their transportation department. the board approved a number of contracted consultant agreements and other contracted service agreements. Just a couple of other things to highlight. The IU will have its community partner fair from 1 a.m. to 1 p.m. On March 8th. And the next MCIU board meeting is actually tomorrow, February 22nd at 6:45. And it will be held in person in Norristown and also over Zoom. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Lohman. Mr. Burdell Williams will provide the facilities report.
Thank you, Ms. Emery. The Facilities Committee met on Tuesday, February 7th at 7 p.m. The agenda include items around all of our facilities, but there was a specific focus on some of the needs at some of our older buildings. I know we have talked a little bit about that in other reports that were shared already this evening, so I won't belabor that at all. But we'll just share that during the presentation, we heard administration share about needed work or investigation of work required on the lintels and grout on the exterior of the administration building to prevent water incursion. That deterioration is impacting the quality of the exterior of the building and is a significant project, but is something that does need to be investigated and completed. We did also hear about new signage at our high school, right outside of the main entrance. We got the addition of some cool lettering and also some paw prints there just to kind of highlight and upgrade the facade a little bit. Also, I think for the third time we repaired, hopefully for the last time, the Panther Pride part of our scoreboard, our relatively new scoreboard sign. Happy that is fixed. So when we ride and everyone else rides along Eastern Road, they recognize that they're in Panther territory. Addition to that, Mr. Holman shared about some updates to some flagpole repairs at Cheltenham Elementary, as well as talking through some of the needs in terms of coordinating with our sustainability committee and our student leaders who are also very focused at the high school level and also at our elementary and middle levels regarding the topic of sustainability and how we as a district can do more there. The last topic that was discussed was that the administration is meeting with representatives from various companies to help bring in or at least investigate what a new work order management program may do for the district. For a while, you all may have heard over the last number of years that we have been rolling with School Dude and have made significant improvements in adding in preventative maintenance and trying to utilize that system to its best capacity, but also recognizing that there are some capabilities that we could use that may or may not be available for those systems. And we're looking elsewhere to try to investigate who could do best by us. We'll be looking forward to some presentation information on that at the board level and at our upcoming meetings. The next facilities committee meeting is on Tuesday, March 7th, in advance of the finance committee meeting. And that meeting is in a hybrid format. So please feel free to come in person or attend online. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. The liaison group report will be provided by Mr. Cohen.
Yes, thank you. The School District Township Liaison Group met on January 23rd at 8 a.m. virtually by Zoom. And there are a number of items discussed. First was Bus Patrol, which is a program that has cameras in place to identify and take images of drivers that ignore the fact they should stop at stop school buses, where it's clearly marked they should stop. And that's working its way as of the time of the meeting through approval from the township. And that's a cooperative effort between the township and school district. Next, there was an update on car thefts and break-ins occurring throughout the township. As people maybe have heard, that was due in large part to a TikTok challenge involving Hyundais and Kias, and the police are working to address that issue. There was then a discussion on update on parking meters, and the township is investigating going to a different system that would be largely app-based, and there would be mechanisms as well for people that do not have smartphones. There was an update from the township on the facilities, and they're doing planning right now, analysis in their facilities, and they're hoping for a presentation to the township commissioners in February and to the public in March. And they're looking at modernizing and possibly combining a number of the township facilities. Next was a brief discussion about Glenwood Road, which runs by the side of Myers Elementary, about school traffic signage, road markings, and safety issues that have been identified and presented to the district by a number of neighbors, and the township is looking into those issues. There was a discussion about the possible and the plans on reopening the Lamont and Roland libraries in the spring. As people may know, the libraries have been closed over the last several winters due to heating and related issues, and the township stated looking at reopening the libraries in the summer. There was then a rather long discussion about the racial incident that occurred at Upper Roland High School against the China boys basketball team, the high school basketball team earlier this season, and conversation occurred about that. Then there was a question about the Lamont Library mural that apparently had been done by some students and or teachers years ago about what the future of that mural was. And it was explained the plan is to reopen the library, so the mural is going to stay in place for the time being. Under new business, here's one item. The township raised the question, is there a fee on school district sports teams to participate on those teams? And Dr. Scriven indicated the answer was no, there is no fee. The next liaison group meeting is scheduled to be held virtually on Monday, February 27th at 8 a.m. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. We have a policy report, Mr. Epps, you're providing.
Yes. Thank you and good evening. The policy committee meeting was held on January 24th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in person and streamed via Zoom. After the roll call and approval of the November 29th, 2022 minutes, we discussed really new business only at this meeting, covering special education, and they are listed on the consent agenda under the policy committee report. So as I mentioned, our agenda contained only new business. We discussed 4 policies that are presented for tonight's as first read policies. That's 113, titled Special Education. It last been updated in 2009. 113.1, which is a new policy for our district, screening and evaluations for students with disabilities. 113.2, last updated in 2011, around behavior support. And 113.3, another new policy for our district, centered on discipline of students with disabilities. All the first read policies from tonight will be discussed at the next policy committee meeting, which is Tuesday, February 28th at 7 p.m. Here at the admin building and streamed via Zoom. That concludes the policy report for tonight.
Thank you. And you're up for the legislative report.
Yes. So it's certainly going to take inspiration from our presenters earlier tonight. One around, we heard that we don't just have good teachers, we have good people. And if you have to say it once, say it again. Thank you. I'm going to combine those two inspirations because we don't just have good teachers who are good people. We have good board members who are good people. And I want to take an opportunity to say thank you. We'll have our own legislative update upcoming next year in terms of membership. And so Mrs. Julie Haywood, Mr. Joel Fishbein, Mr. David Cohen, on behalf of the legislative committee right now, I would like to thank you for your service to the Cheltenham School District. Ms. Haywood, you served on the legislative committee. We have a former president of the board and longstanding member. And so thank you for not just being good school board members, but being good people, showing good values, modeling the way, and having a focus that really put us where we are today, contributed to where we are today as a district. And so thank you. They're not leaving. They have until the rest of the year, but I will say it
tonight. I'll say it again every chance I get. Thanks. As in the sports world, you get a farewell tour, and they play your video at different stadiums. So tonight it was legislative committee. Next time it might be in my policy committee. We'll see where it goes. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. In terms of our state, I have some updates really from the state level. Very exciting, but still a little bit of anxious news about the fair funding lawsuit. The Commonwealth Court did offer a ruling around in a 786-page decision. I want to pull two quick quotes from that really the judge stated, it's time for our state legislator to fund public schools in every corner of Pennsylvania, so all students, whether or not they live in a wealthy community, can receive the quality public education guaranteed in our state constitution. Now the responsibility is on the legislator to enact a new way to fund schools, which is no easy task. And so we have, as a board, we've been advocates as through the Pennsylvania School Board Association. And also we want to encourage in this partnership with our community to continue to be advocates. It is really no easy task to come up with a whole new system for how to fund schools. We have different types of schools. We have different types of learners. And so parents, you are also advocates. This is an opportunity for you all to share your voice from the lived experience, what it means, what school funding means, and the possibilities to move our Commonwealth forward. For the State House, we heard that they have established a working group to confirm what will be their rules of engagement and committee assignments. Those two items are really essential. They can't do any type of legislative business without those two items in place. And so the hope is that an agreement will be in place by the end of this month, and both the Senate and the House will begin to convene and do their business. To that note, the Senate had convened, however, is in recess. They did send 4 constitutional amendments over for when the House does prepare to call order that range from voter ID laws to extending the amount of time victims of sexual abuse have to seek some legal redress. And so there is some action happening, certainly not directly related to education, but certainly things that are related to us as Pennsylvanians. Just almost in closing, the governor, having been sworn in last month, will deliver their first budget address on March 7th. That's right around the corner, just a couple of weeks away. And so that will set off budget conversations for the 2024 fiscal year. The final budget will need approval of the state legislator before the governor signs it into law, and we'll follow this process. We heard about our not so new business manager, and all of us will be following that process closely because it impacts our own revenue and the budget overall here in Cheltenham. And so as a legislative committee, we did convene and we had a presentation from the Pennsylvania School Board Association's head of governmental affairs. They shared that PBSA's legislative focus for this upcoming session will be on charter reform with an approach to really create a bridge between two extreme sides of the aisles, preventing voucher programs, really because it leads to picking winners and losers, right? Who gets more resources and who doesn't. And then also preventing bills such as more unfunded mandates around graduation requirements. And so that'll be the focus when the House and Senate come to business. As a reminder, that is hopefully will happen within the next week. And we'll hear again on March 7th what will be the governor's presentation for the next fiscal year's budget. That concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Epps.
When is the PSBA advocacy day?
That we did talk about that. That is April 28th, but the date might be moved.
Oh.
So right now it's scheduled for April 28th, but we're gonna get a confirmation on that. It might be moved, depending on when the date's actually. They said they might have it to be virtual. So it's still being determined, depending on when the House will actually be back.
Thank you.
And so next we have our approval of agenda items. There are 3 separate votes that we will be taking this evening. One is on the agenda items as listed. The second vote will be on the approval of the MCIU number 23 general operating budget. And the third item we will be voting on is the approval of the superintendent goals. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Charles Burdell Williams.
Second, Joel Fishbein.
Okay, so we will vote on, yes, comments.
I just, first off, this is on only the first vote you mentioned,
Only
correct?
the first vote.
My comment is just, I wanted to point out the approval of supplemental texts. There's some really spectacular texts listed in there. And, at a time when it's hard to discuss things like racism and anti-racism in public school districts, these are the kinds of books I'm very thankful that my kids are going in a district that covers this kind of material. So thank you to the team that was involved in picking this.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Any other comments, Mr. Burdell Williams?
Yes, thank you. I have mentioned this in some previous legislative sessions, but just want to share some gratitude for the long list of volunteers that are going to be helping out in our school district who are up for approval tonight. Again, through the difficulties that we experienced during the pandemic, where many of us were not allowed into the school buildings, it's very encouraging to see the list of volunteers continue to grow. That continues to reflect the very strong focus on supporting our school buildings from our community members. Greatly appreciate not just their efforts to complete all of the requirements to become a volunteer, but also for their commitment to doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Haywood?
Also just wanted to note our appreciation for the donation by the McNally family to Cheltenham Elementary's library. Wanted to thank them as well.
Thank you, Ms. Haywood. Mr. Epps?
Thanks. Love the synergy. I want to take it even a step further in terms of the appreciation that we are approving text such as stamped. That's really, I believe, what one among others. And this is at a time where Cheltenham, passed an equity policy as one of the first places to do that throughout the county. We're at a time now where we find in the state, we find that our neighbors are banning books such as stamped, are banning allowing people to speak their voice, and to support causes that are important to them. And so I take it as an honor, not as it's in our consent agenda, but I sincerely take it as an honor and a privilege that we are a body that is inviting history for the facts that it presents and inviting it as a way to learn together and to struggle together to take our country forward. So thanks for opening that up. I want to extend appreciation as well.
Thank you, Mr. Epps.
Ms. Henry?
Miss Small, Miss Lemon.
Thank you. Sorry.
There's a lot of names. I confuse my kids' names too. That's why I'm very slow when I say names.
Thank you. I have a comment on one of the first read policies. 13.2 behavior support, one of the ones that's up for revision. That policy incorporates the use of seclusion as a way to support the behavior of a student with a disability. And I have concerns about including such a procedure in a policy that may be approved by our district. I have shared with my concerns with the policy committee already. I did some legal research. I couldn't actually find anything in the state regulations or in federal law which would require us to have a policy allowing the use of seclusion to control students' behavior. In addition to that, and probably more importantly, the National ARC, which used to stand for Association of Retarded Citizens. It's a longstanding national organization that advocates on behalf of individuals with disabilities and intellectual disabilities, and the American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. Both are opposed to the use of adverse procedures such as seclusion and isolation that cause physical and or psychological pain and or result in humiliation or discomfort. So I just wanted to share with the board and with the public my concerns about a policy that would consider, even under very limited circumstances, which it would, the use of seclusion, particularly when the policy would state that an adult would not have to be in the room with the child being secluded. And I find that also very difficult to accept, especially when we're asking particularly young children, but children who are having difficulty regulating their behavior such that people feel like they should be secluded, to be somewhere by themselves. So I just wanted to express my concern about the use of that, you know, what to call it, exactly, procedure in the policy that we're contemplating.
Thank you, Ms. Loman. There any other comments before I call for a vote? Mr.
I just want to offer clarification as a follow-up for those who aren't familiar with the terminology. Because that is a first read policy, this vote is not an approval of that policy. That's Ms. Lemon is commenting on it now, but it will be reviewed, go through at least one more iteration through the policy committee. So just so folks aren't confused as to why we vote aye.
Ms. Hayward, could you put your mic on?
It's a meeting that's scheduled for next Tuesday, actually. So we'll discuss it with that meeting as well. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
And thank you, Mr. Schultz. And just so it's clear, if there's anybody from the public watching tonight, with Ms. Haywood's invitation to go to the policy committee meeting, which will be available in hybrid form, you can express your concerns there based on Ms. Loman's comments, if you are so inspired. That's the point of the policy committee meetings. Not all, the public doesn't often get involved in that, but when a policy that draws attention like this one comes up, we would encourage and invite and appreciate community involvement so that we can get voices other than those that usually come to the policy committee meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Seeing none, the motion carries. Motion is approved. Next, we have the approval of the MCIU general operating budget. Have any comments on that before we go to a vote? I don't need to call another motion to approve, do I? Because I did that all over.
No, I think that's a separate
It's
motion.
a separate motion. All right, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second, Jennifer Loman.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. I'm an aye. The motion is approved. And we have the approval of the superintendent's goals. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Zachary Epps.
Second, Charles Riddell Williams.
Any comments before we vote? Mr. Schultz?
Just wanted to commend Dr. Scriven and also the, frankly, I mean, I was technically part of the team, but I'll talk about the other members of the team. But the board that worked together to form these goals, I'm very impressed with them. I think they're very specific. I think they're very measurable, and they're huge impact goals. And frankly, Dr. Scriven, you came to us with a draft of goals that was knocking it out of the park right off the bat. So, and for those unfamiliar, goals are passed by the board, but they are a collaborative effort with the superintendent and really reflect the leadership and vision of that superintendent. So thank you, Dr. Scriven, for all your leadership, and looking forward to seeing these goals move forward.
Ms. Loman?
I can never tell when this is on or not.
The red light.
That's so weird though. Shouldn't it mean that it's on? It should be green. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to thank you, Dr. Scriven, as well, for your willingness to work with the committee. We're, not shy in retiring, and we are not shy about sharing, our comments and feedback. And so I appreciate your willingness to work with us and come together on, as Mr. Schultz said, the specificity of these goals, which I know you were also looking for as well. And also to try to tie it into where we're moving as a district forward. So I appreciate your willingness. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you. All right. We will move to public comments on non-agenda items. Again, if you're in the community and wish to speak, state your name and where you reside in the district. If you are watching on cable or in Zoom, you can email CSD board meeting comments@cheltenham.org. If you're on the Zoom call, you can raise your hand. Seeing none comments come through, we will move on to, there were no prior public questions at our last meeting. And last but not least, our future meetings are as listed on the agenda. Ms. Haywood.
Sorry. But the Educational Affairs Committee meeting, I think it was announced earlier, is tomorrow. It's normally on a Tuesday. So just wanted to point that out to the community. Again, it's open to the public and it's in hybrid form.
Thank you. Yeah, it is listed as February 22nd. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There is none opposed. The meeting is adjourned.